Hey everyone, how you doing? It's Peter Doak here, and it is time for the PDG Advertising Podcast 27. Hope I've got that right. Doesn't matter, it'll be right on the title of this podcast. And yeah, we're at either 26, 27, or 28. Who knows? Let's get into it. So it's a miserable, wet day in Belfast. Sitting here in the apartment, can't even see the mountains because it's so grey and basically wintry coming into June in Belfast in Northern Ireland. Absolutely crazy. So this morning we worked out that we needed to create a customer journey map. I've been meaning to do this for some time. Anthony and I have talked it over a few times on how we display the overall customer journey for places like Instagram, for our marketing material, maybe to have up in the office, something that depicts what we're trying to do. I've said it a few times on this podcast, and it's really important. The customer journey is everything to PDG advertising. It's what we do at all stages. It may seem really obvious, and to other people it might be really obvious, but it has taken 4 years of doing this on my own before I've realized that the PDG advertising service is completely based on the overall customer journey. And it has different dimensions and different levels. And I've never seen anybody completely crack it. We have not completely cracked it. We are working to crack it and to understand it better. The customer journey is, if you own a business or if you're a customer in a business, you can relate to this. And it's the path you take with a business. So I think a universal example is Mars or Coca-Cola. We'll go with Coca-Cola for now. The customer journey for someone, who has not heard of Coca-Cola? Whenever you're younger, you're introduced to it. I guess I was actually introduced to it by my mum, who rightly or wrongly gave it to me whenever I was sick. It's a flat Coke for whenever you're sick. I would doubt that flat Coca-Cola does anything for you whenever you're sick. I can't imagine that it would be good for you. I can't imagine it'd ever be good for you. I think it's a scandal that they've been able to assign, whenever you're sick, that you have a flat Coke. To me, that's crazy. Couldn't be healthy. And as a side note, the reason why I don't think it could possibly be healthy is because I used to work in a bar, and I caveat this with no medical scientific knowledge whatsoever of this process, but there's two reasons actually. The first one is I used to work at a bar, and we regularly would spill Coke in places, and whenever that would happen, the Coke would congeal on whatever surface it was on, like tar. It would be sticky. It would be very hard to get off the surface. It would be just disgusting, and that did never to me looked healthy to drink. Now I drink it a lot. I'm pretty much addicted to it. I say I drink it a lot. I don't really drink it a lot. I try to push myself away from it. Sometimes I treat myself with it, but it's not a truly enjoyable experience. I always think this is not a nice thing to drink. So that's one side of Coke. The other side is I've seen it whenever they put those pennies into a glass of Coke and they come out stripped. They come out like new. And if it's doing that to a Coke, to a penny, something metal. I wonder what it's doing to your insides. I don't like Coke at all. So that makes this point even more important. Coke, in my idea, Coca-Cola is not a good product. Is it a successful product? Without doubt. Potentially, arguably one of the most successful products in the world. Sugar water, carbonated sugar water, and you're introduced to, I was introduced to it by my mum, but there's a whole load of different entry points, like what Coca-Cola and Pepsi did in their early days. They would get an influencer like the Britney Spears of the world, or the Beyonce's of the world, or anybody that had some influence, and they would associate with them, give them a Coke and have them drink it, and so you'd be introduced to it that way. Oh look, Britney Spears is drinking Coke, I should drink Coke as well. A fundamental of marketing, I guess, get someone else more popular than you to use your product and increase your brand awareness. So that whole area of brand awareness is a part of the customer journey. So that first step, that first thing is what we try to influence positively. And whenever a customer comes to us, we try to understand, how do we get in front of people who don't know who we are or who the customer is? And we create adverts and strategies and plans to do that, to get in front of those people. Now, the next dimension of it, you might see on Coca-Cola's, you might see, Coca-Cola on a Super Bowl or something like that. You might see, you might see it in newspapers, or all of those areas you might be interested, but you might still not, purchase it at that point. If you see it just once. And I've learned, and this is a really important thing, really, really important, it takes 7 times seeing something before you take action. That's an average. So it's not exactly 7 times. So I can't guarantee that if I put an advert 7 times in front of a customer, that will be the magic number and everybody's the same and they will buy. Some people buy on the first go. Some people take maybe 100 times to see it. But I've heard before, and I believe it's true because I feel it, that people need to see something 7 times, before they will purchase. So our second level is trying to get in front of those people again and again and again and again, so that they then eventually take action and purchase. And we do that through capturing emails. We do that through retargeting via pixels. We do that through bombarding the senses of, newspapers. Someday, if we do it, billboards, TV, social media ads, Google search ads, Gmail ads, YouTube ads, Twitter ads, LinkedIn ads, Instagram ads, as many different types of ads as you can imagine. So that's all that mix of those 2 first stages of the customer journey with the product. Stage 1, complete unawareness to awareness, and then awareness into engagement, and then engagement into purchasing. So you make your purchase. Now, this is where marketing becomes really holistic. If you try the product and you hate it, then I don't think you're going to be able to sell it again. And I think that the customer journey could end there for you. So that's why whenever a customer comes to us with a terrible product, we know we have to say no. And we know we have to push them off and say, look, this is not something that we can work with or we can deliver, because even the best advertising cannot sell a terrible product. But in that customer journey, that purchase scenario is something that we want to affect very heavily, making it easy for people to purchase the product. And I believe that is all part of advertising and all part of marketing, making that happen. Then there's another stage, which is advocacy, or what I call fans and word of mouth, where people that have purchased your product maybe a few times start to talk about it positively and start to review it and start to refer other friends. And remember at the start of our process where we were talking how you hear about things, that loops right round and back and right round up to the top part again, where it turns people who don't know what you're all about into people that have heard of you through a friend and word of mouth. And that is one of the most powerful parts. And sometimes I'm wowed by this, because if you take that step back, the most powerful part has been fueled by the previous steps. And it's really powerful word of mouth marketing. And it's all a bit of a blur, and it all blurs into each other, each of the different steps, because a purchase can happen at any given time, but it's fueled by new technology. New technology can move people through the stages quicker, or can level the playing field between big companies and small companies. And it's always moving and it's always changing. So it's really, really exciting. And I guess, I don't know, that customer journey and that map is something I want to get out there to the world and to show people, and to share with people, to say, look, this is how you do it. This is the key. This is the way to do online advertising in 2019. Now, in today's world, we're also putting down in the little diagram and the document that we're going to create and put it out over all social media channels. We're going to say some bullet points as to what we're actually doing, but also I'm going to share the tools that we use. And what would be really interesting would be to see if the Peter Doak or the PDG Advertising of 1920 did the same thing. What would be the tools that we use? Would it be the Facebooks, the Instagrams? Definitely not, because there weren't even computers back then. There wasn't anything. There was just newspapers. I don't even know if there were TVs. I think there were probably TVs, but I don't know. Maybe TVs was around in the 19. Well, it probably wasn't TVs. If my mum was like, if in her house they were like one of the last people to get TVs, and she would have grown up after the 50s. So in the 1920s, it would have been newspapers. Maybe radio. Would it have been that sophisticated? Maybe billboards. I don't know. Maybe people walking about with T-shirts with advertisements on them. I don't know. But it would definitely be different. But what wouldn't be different, what I don't believe would be different, would be the pattern of people not knowing about you, to people knowing a little bit about you, to people purchasing from you, and then people talking about you. So the mediums change, but the process does not necessarily change. And that's the document that we're going to create and put out there. I guess I am kind of putting it out there right now. I'm putting it out there right now in this podcast, but I think that it really deserves to be depicted and put out there so people can share it really, really easily. And I guess I'll link back to this part of the podcast for that too. Today was Wednesday, can be kind of a not quiet as in not busy, but a quiet as in focus day, where we build in the things that we've said we're going to do for the customers. That can be a particular focus. And what can happen whenever we're doing that, we can find obstacles, or we can highlight problems, or see things that aren't working so well. And I just wanted to mention this. Today we went further than we would normally go for the customer, way further. And it's because we could. At the start of this week, we said we're not going to be vying for new business this week so much because we're just so busy. And that's a thing that I hate to do. I don't like not to be looking for new business, but this week it's just been very busy, and I want to make sure that our customers are getting the best value possible from us. So we've pushed a couple of things really, really hard for customers, more than we normally would, more than we should, and I don't have a problem with that at all, because I want us to be adding more value than we're taking, and that is something that definitely came to light today. And I'll let you know how that goes over the next couple of weeks, because in what I do and in what we do at PDG Advertising, I don't think it takes very long to see if things are working. So let's see what happens over the next week or so, and see how that works out. Something else that was really good today was that I was able to, now every day, I'm really one for lists. I go through a list of everything I have to do. I go through a list of every customer. I check in on every customer to make sure everything's okay. When I say check in on every customer, I don't get in touch with every customer every day. It's rare, I guess, that I would go through a couple of days without talking to a customer, but I have a set list of my customers, and I go through them every day to make sure all the tasks are done and make sure everything's running smoothly. And that is like almost the only thing that gives me peace of mind, that I know that that's happening, and I know that if something goes wrong, it is definitely down to me. It's not because I can't blame anybody else. It's not because it's, someone else's fault. It's because if something goes wrong, I know that I've checked it, and I know that I'll have caught it within at least 24 hours of checking off that customer. But today we moved so quickly that I was able to do it twice, and I uncovered things that we could add value. I think that's maybe where our previous point of going further than what we normally would for customers, that kind of happened because I put double the effort into each of the customers that I was working on today, and that was really good. That that helped. Um, Double peace of mind, I guess, and set us up well for tomorrow and for the next few weeks. I hope in this podcast that it doesn't feel like it's stuff that you don't really understand or stuff that doesn't really make sense. If there ever is anything like that and you're interested in it, just leave a comment wherever wherever you're listening to this, and I'll definitely work to come back to you on it to explain it. But I suppose what I'm saying is today I was able to double check over my work, which was really good. I must give a shout out to our podcast producer who is back and bad as ever today. Has been able to edit and upload our podcast to YouTube. She's doing a wonderful job, so I'm really glad to have her back. And the last thing that I'm going to leave you with today is the simple, not complex mantra that I have developed over the last 24 hours or so. I've noticed in my team, my contractor team, a couple of team members who are making things more complex than they need to be because they're trying too hard not to make mistakes and trying to they're making assumptions on a lot of things that they don't know and that they need to work to test out because they're scared of making mistakes. And I think while it's good not to make mistakes, if you can help it, you have to make mistakes to go forward. So I think I haven't really got into it with them where I haven't really got into it with the contractors where that's coming from or why that's happening. I've just tried to flag it and say that's not how we should do things. We need to simplify things, not make them more complex. Whenever we execute things, we need to do it swiftly, and we need to follow instructions really well, like take into account everything that we're saying to each other, so that confusion and miscommunication does not happen. And that's a really important part of what we do at PDG. We definitely, like, one of the reasons why I built this business and why this business even exists is because I believe that I have a talent for simplifying complex technology in order to use it for businesses. So I need to make sure and impress that on the team and show that that's something that we do and we do well. Because I think things do get very complicated. Don't get me wrong, things are complicated sometimes. like things do get very complex, and it's not a case of, well, I can explain this in a moment. It's more understanding core principles and breaking things down into component parts and understanding how they work. It's why I'm such a advocate of making mistakes and breaking things in order to put them back together again. Because whenever you do that, you understand it from the inside out. There was a company that I worked for a while ago. I was a resource planner in that company for a time, and it taught me one of the greatest lessons that I've ever learned, ever. And I walked in, I used to create rotas, and there was a rota for like 180 people. Like, I really don't know if I was qualified to be creating rotas for 180 people. I was in my early 20s at the time, and I was full of beans. And I guess if anybody said, "Can you do this?" I was like, "Yeah, of course I can do it." And maybe me, I really have to do things my own way, and I have to, learn to do things my own way, and I have to make mistakes. And doing rotas for 180 people, something I was maybe used to doing rotas for maybe 20 people, maybe 30 people or so, but 180 people with maybe 10 different languages, and goodness knows across a whole 24-hour spectrum of time across however many disciplines. Being bullshit, I think is the word. I took this on and didn't complain and just tried to do it. And I did it on our new software system. And I was responsible for deleting that whole rota system for about 4 weeks. And it might not sound that big, but considering the amount of complexities in the rota and how, and considering that whenever you have done that, it's 180 human beings that you have then deleted their rota for, and you don't even know. They don't even know what they're supposed to be working. So, whenever you do that, you walk into work and you know that you've done it, whenever you walk into work and you discover that you've done it and you know that you've done it, it is a sick, sinking feeling that you get. But what it allows for you to do is to fix it and to build it back up again. I suppose if the person who's you're working for allows you to, or in my case, if I can just say, oh no, we need to do this to fix it. And then I was the only one that was able to fix it. So whenever I did that, it gave me an in-depth understanding of the program, in-depth understanding of, what can happen, and an in-depth understanding of, what to do when something goes wrong. So it made me better in the future. And that's what we need to do at PDG Advertising. We need to push barriers and break through them. And we can't get caught up on hearsay of how an advert is supposed to be run or how a graphic is supposed to be done. Any of that stuff, we have to break through and move forward instead of getting caught up in anxiety and uncertainty. I mean, the worst that can happen is 24 hours can go past and a test budget of $30 is lost. And at that point, we can then review and find out why and how it didn't. But to hold back and not do it because you're scared of making a mistake is not something that we want to do going forward. So what I'll be working personally on is bringing us as a team to a place where we can test and do well in a simple fashion and not make things more complex than they need to be. Wouldn't that be good? Everyone, thanks so much for listening. That was the PDG Advertising Podcast, either 26 or 27. I am not entirely sure, but you'll be able to see by the title of this podcast. And I look forward to tomorrow's, where we'll share more of our journey and more of our time. I'm going back here to a rainy Belfast. I hope the sun is shining wherever you are and you're having a great day.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.